it is usually the time that the whole family, no matter where they are, will be at least making an attempt to travel home, and then they will be eating together. This is called 團年飯. So in Cantonese, the word 團年 means this is not only reunion, but in that reunion, you have a more or less a perfect stage for family.
Hello and welcome to the Love the Stranger podcast. My name's Emily, I'm from Welcome Churches, and today we have a special podcast talking about Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year is coming up at the end of January and is celebrated by many people from East Asia, and especially for people from Hong Kong who have come to the UK in recent years. This can be a special time of the year, and many of us will be thinking about how we can celebrate Lunar New Year with our friends from Hong Kong and elsewhere. So today I have a conversation with my very special colleague Mina, who is from Hong Kong herself and has lots of insights into Lunar New Year for us to learn from. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and I hope that you have a great time celebrating Lunar New Year. So to join me in this conversation is my wonderful colleague, Mina. Mina has been working for Welcome Churches for a few years now and is originally from Hong Kong and has brought a wealth of experience and expertise in so many different ways. She's a very gifted designer. She has lots of knowledge and skills of intercultural work in lots of different ways. She's a deeply spiritual person and has been a huge blessing to the Welcome Churches team. So, hi Mina, it's good to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Emily. And yeah, as Emily mentioned, I'm originally from Hong Kong, and then I have been here for a while. I'm now the communications manager for Welcome Churches, but I also am heading some refugee and migrant-facing projects, especially the one of interest, maybe UKHK, where churches, like-minded churches, come together to decide to give people from Hong Kong a good welcome. So we are also speaking in the hope that we could encourage more churches to join this Lunar New Year celebrations, as well as, to give Hong Kongers and maybe even Chinese people and other Asian people who are celebrating Lunar New Year this time of the year as well, a very good welcome indeed. Thank you for having me again, Emily.
Yeah, it's so good to have you, Mina. Okay, so to start with, Lunar New Year, what is it? As I've already said, some people call it Chinese New Year. Should we call it Chinese New Year? Should we call it Lunar New Year? Can you help us out?
Ooh, this is actually a little bit of a modern debate, a very recent debate as well. I would actually say find this debate to maybe within this couple of years. It's just that the wider East Asian communities have this realization that not everyone celebrating Lunar New Year would be of Chinese descent or would be living in China. For example, some of our friends in Southern Korea, in Vietnam, in Singapore would also be celebrating this day because of the historic cultural influence, from the Chinese influence. That's why in order to properly respect everyone and this very diverse background of people who will be celebrating this special date in their own way, we are calling it Lunar New Year. But I would also say that, it is also true that some people will find it more respectful to be referred to as Chinese New Year. So if you are seeing friends from China or you are very sure about where they are from, you could also tell them a happy Chinese New Year, and people would just be as happy about this.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful. So it's not just Chinese people that celebrate it, a broader group of people who celebrate this festival.
About the New Year, actually, if you really want to go back to the historical records as well as the cultural records, you will have lots of myths and legends and also different animals that you could talk about. But I would like to stress the modern or the contemporary significance about it. Come to think about contemporary societies, Lunar New Year is actually a very big thing in China. If you have a high population of migrant workers working elsewhere, outside of their hometowns, because Lunar New Year is like one of the biggest festival of the year, which is very family oriented. It is almost like a family festival. So you will be able to travel, stay there for a while, not only visit your own family, but also visit the extended families as well. So for contemporary people with a Chinese cultural influence, I would actually say Lunar New Year is a very family thing, and reunion is like, one of the key themes. And of course, especially when we are talking from a perspective of someone living outside of Hong Kong and China, for Chinese communities overseas, historically, this is also a peak time to go back to China or go back to Hong Kong as well. But of course, with the contemporary demands of work and education, not every one of us would be able to actually apply for annual leave or, leave their schoolwork behind just to go back home. So I guess this is why we are talking about the New Year, because home is such a big element. Family is a big element. So what are we going to help people to feel at home and find their family here again is going to be the center of how we are going to celebrate Lunar New Year.
Thanks, Mina. That's such a good point, that it's at the big festivals that feelings of homesickness can really set in for many people, and that it can be a time that people feel particularly lonely and isolated. And so anything that our churches can do to help people at that time, even just connecting with them or celebrating in some way, can really help people to feel better and feel that they've got friends and community around them as well. So yes, what are some of the ways that you've seen it being celebrated in the UK since you've arrived? How have you seen Lunar New Year being celebrated here that might have surprised you or been different to what is more usual in Hong Kong?
Maybe I will start with how it is celebrated in Hong Kong, and then you will see that because when you are living elsewhere, it is almost a little bit like you have the set of customs that you are accustomed to, and in another venue with limited resources and limited capacity to duplicate it, what kind of features you are picking out and you are going to repeatedly do and observe so that this day is marked with a certain significance with you, but it is not exactly the same. In Hong Kong, it is actually a very long affair. It is almost like a week-long affair. Before the Lunar New Year, we will have something that is like the traditional Lunar New Year markets. It is a little bit like Christmas market. That's why you may actually find some of the Hong Kongers in your community who look at, Christmas market with a different sense of understanding. Like, yes, we also do it, but at another time of the year. Because you will also have this kind of markets where you could buy snacks, you could buy the appropriate decorations, you could buy flowers, anything that has to do with Lunar New Year, especially if this is like, for example, you usually have a theme animal for that year. So you will see a lot of toys, and decorations of that animal that will be on sale in Lunar New Year markets. And then for a couple of days before Lunar New Year, especially on the 28th of the Lunar New Year calendar anyway, you are supposed to clean home, to give it a really deep cleaning. So some of us from Scotland and Northern Ireland and Ireland will probably spot their customs being echoed here. We will shop for food, we will shop for gifts, because if you going to visit your family, you will have to be bringing gifts. One interesting thing is that you will also go to the bank and just to get money from the bank. But you will make special requests. You will be actually asking for new bank notes. Because for those who are parents, you are supposed to give some kind of red pockets to your children as well as children in your community, where you're supposed to include a small amount of money as a kind of blessing. But curiously enough, in Hong Kong, people do have this, small tradition of wanting to give new things. So even the bank notes will have to be new. But I could assure you, as a former child myself, we don't really care for the bank notes newness. We care for the value. But don't worry, you don't need to do that. And then we will also be shopping for new clothes. So it is like new everything. On Lunar New Year's Eve, you will have a very big reunion fest. It is usually the time that the whole family, no matter where they are, will be at least making an attempt to travel home, and then they will be eating together. This is called Tuần Niên Phan. So in Cantonese, the word Tuần Niên is actually a presupposition. There is a presupposition in the word that means This is not only reunion, but in that reunion, you have a more or less a perfect stage for family. And on the first day of Lunar New Year, you wish everyone a big happy new year. So we will be talking about how to say just different phrases and blessings a little bit on. So if you're interested, you could start preparing, and then we will do a little bit of a tongue twisting. Yes, not right, something like that. And then we will be again eating. You will probably see a recurring motif. Eating is a very big thing for Lunar New Year. And we will try to create and prepare dishes that have names that bring good luck. We will be visiting families, or you will have visitors coming to your families. Sometimes for people with very extensive families, you may even have a twin bai, which is like a group visit where different families would come together in a big space or in a big household, and then everyone just wish everyone else good luck, in which you will be distributing red pockets to children, and the theme color will probably be red and gold. So when you are seeing a lot of your Hong Kong friends suddenly start wearing red on the 29th of January later this month, you will know, this is the first day of the Lunar New Year. On the second day of the Lunar New Year in Hong Kong, you will have more visits, and then you will also have a very big show of fireworks in the Victoria Harbour. And then on the third day, traditionally, don't ask me why, I'm not too sure myself as well, it is a time to have some very vigorous debate with your family. Don't ask me why, this is like the tradition. My personal guess is probably because of the dress of the New Year. Because by this point, you will have already been preparing, cleaning the house, intensively, and then doing all the shopping, cooking, entertaining guests, probably for more than 7 days now. So understandably, you may feel a little bit, short-tempered with your friends. So traditionally, these days, you won't be going anywhere to visit because there's always this possibility of you starting a debate that you don't want it to. Okay. So we would just stay home and rest. And this is like the most basic form of Lunar New Year. But for people who are really observing the customs, who are really following the tradition very closely, the Lunar New Year visits could extend, all the way into the 7th day of the Lunar New Year, and probably a little bit longer. And back in Hong Kong, from the first to the third day, we all have public holidays. Yeah. So I guess this is part of the difference, especially the difference between celebrating Lunar New Year in Hong Kong versus celebrating in the UK. Because when you come to think about that, it is not a public holiday here. So whatever celebrations you want to do, you want to observe, you will have to try to squeeze the time to do it.
So in Hong Kong, it's a 3-day holiday, so you've got lots of time to celebrate. Whereas what you're saying is, in the UK, often people, they might take time off work for themselves and book it as part of their annual leave. But for many people, it will just be a meal in the evening or something like that instead. One of the things I would like to hear more about is how churches relate to Lunar New Year, especially in Hong Kong, where you're from. Some of the things that you've talked about already, you've mentioned people wishing good luck to each other, and the red envelopes and a bit of prosperity and money and things like that. And sometimes Christians can feel uneasy around these sorts of issues. So is it something that churches engage with? Is it something that churches stay clear of? How do churches relate to Lunar New Year in Hong Kong?
This is a very interesting question, and the answer is going to be interestingly long, so please bear with me here. Actually, I would say different communities and different denominations may have different ways of understanding as well as encountering the New Year. I've heard from stories like there would have been some Christian communities who were against celebrating or observing the New Year because they see most of the features and the symbols as superstitious or even unchristian. Some would celebrate and observe to varying points. So, for example, this coming year is supposed to be the year of the snake. And you will suddenly find that a lot of churches will be avoiding the mentioning or any reference to the year of the snake because we will probably be thinking about the serpent in the Genesis. Similarly, for the year of the dragon, you will also see some Christian churches hesitant on mentioning this year because of their reference to the Revelations. And we will also have different ways of trying to celebrate this by pointing to the significance of, what is the difference between good luck and the blessings from God, and how our lives are actually all rooted in the blessings of God. So you could still wish people something, but, comparing to the general population where you probably may have heard of this greeting before, which is 恭喜發財, it literally means I wish you will get rich this year. You will see the Christian community being more inclined to say 新年快樂, Happy Lunar New Year, or even something like 福杯滿溢, may your cup of blessing overflows. Because we all want to be blessed.
Yeah.
For some, it is known to be good luck, but we all know who the source of all blessings is. And it is definitely the right time of the year to remind everyone in your church and probably beyond your church as well that you don't really need to do all these things like wear red, red pockets, do this, do that, to secure luck for yourself.
It's interesting. So what you're saying is that churches really vary on how much they engage with Lunar New Year. And some will embrace it and celebrate it. Others might be more conservative and reserved and hesitant about engaging with the festival from its roots and all the history of it. But I really like what you say about, asking for God's blessings on people and asking for blessing in people's lives is a positive way of being able to engage with the festival rather than talking about luck and prosperity for Christians.
Yep.
And the other thing you said was around the greetings. I remember at primary school being taught Cum Kei Fat Choi in my strong Wigan accent, but I had a class full of people saying it, a mixture of, is it Mandarin or Cantonese, Cum Kei Fat Choi?
Cung Hei Fa Choi is actually Cantonese.
Okay. But yes, I apologise for the Wigan twang on it, which probably means that it makes no sense to Asian people anyway. But yeah, there are different greetings that you can say which might be more appropriate. That's an important thing, I think, for people to be aware of when they're trying to celebrate Lunar New Year with their Hong Kong or Chinese or other Asian friends.
Yeah, but thank you for attending, Emily. Please don't be sorry about the accent, and it is the same for everyone here. As long as we know that you are actually saying something remotely, celebratory about Lunar New Year, we will actually be overjoyed because we understand that this is not a very permanent holiday in your calendar. Just to hear something, some remarks, or even a question of, oh, I heard that this is a special day of the year for you, means to us quite a lot because we know that you're taking care of us. You're really mindful of, something significant is happening on your calendar and you want to find out more, or, you even want to say something like maybe 恭喜發財 or Happy New Year or 新年快樂. Even if the essence is a little bit off, and maybe we will just look around a bit. And then once we catch on and know that, this is what you are saying, we will be very happy. We could assure you.
Yeah.
Hi, Samuel here. We hope you are enjoying the Love the Stranger podcast. Every year, thousands of people arrive in the UK with stories of war, persecution, violence, and poverty, hoping for a happy ending. Instead, they often face isolation, hostility, fear, and loneliness. Now, more than ever, a welcome from a local church can make all the difference, changing their story from fear and isolation to one of acceptance and belonging. This is for people like Abbas, who said that his local church in the UK gave him a new family to belong to after his family was killed in his home country. We want every refugee in the UK to receive a warm welcome when they arrive in a new community, and we can do it through the power of the local church. Could you become a story changer today by committing to give regular to the work of Welcome Churches? Your monthly gift will make a refugee feel welcome all year round throughout the UK. Visit welcomechurches.org/donate. Thank you.
So let's talk about the UK then and celebrating Lunar New Year in the UK over the next few weeks. What advice do you have for people who think, yes, we want to do something for Lunar New Year? It might be a local person who wants to do something for new arrivals from Hong Kong or other Asian countries, or it might be people from Hong Kong and elsewhere who are looking to do something in the UK. Have you got any ideas or suggestions over how we can celebrate this festival?
Oh, I have lots of ideas. Thank you for asking. So for the very beginning, maybe on the 29th of January, you could just say Happy Lunar New Year. Or if you want, you could also say 新年快樂 in Cantonese or 新年快樂. This is the Mandarin version. So if your friends is from China or if they speak 普通话 or Mandarin, you could use this version instead.
Go on, say it again in Cantonese.
新年快樂.
新年快樂. No?
Very close. And then in Mandarin, it will be 新年快樂.
I think let's stick to the Cantonese. I can only do one, I'm afraid.
And we'll repeat again, Cantonese, 新年快樂.
新年快樂.
Yes, this is great.
Getting closer.
We definitely know
getting
what
closer.
you're saying. So this is great.
It's about the attempt, isn't it? It's about trying to engage with the festival and trying to show your willingness to learn language and to participate in it, rather than getting it right and getting it perfect. That's what I'm going with anyway.
Yeah, this is actually the spirit. And even if you may not feel very confident in, trying to utter it in Cantonese or 普通话, you could also say your blessings in English. You could say, this is a new year. We hope that, God will bless you abundantly this year. Or, may the peace and the joy of God be with you, throughout this year. We are not going to reject any form of blessings just because of the language it is uttered in. So don't worry. And if you are interested, ask your questions. Don't hesitate. We are actually very eager to tell you things about us, our stories and our cultures most of the time. So you could just ask, this day, how are you going to celebrate it? Yes, if you want to get involved, you could also ask your Hong Kongers or the community what plans they have. For example, if you know someone who is here on their own, or if you got a field of, such individuals in your community, maybe you could organize something like invite them to a meal at your home on the weekends. We understand that Lunar New Year is happening on a Wednesday, so it is probably not going to be very convenient for people's busy schedule, but weekends will work. And if you have Hong Kong communities in your bigger community, you could actually ask them what kind of plans they are having. Because I know throughout the UK, you have different groups of Hong Kong people of different sizes. Sometimes, there may be 2 or 3 families coming together to have a meal or to have something to market. Sometimes this is like smaller Lunar New Year markets. You could actually ask them, what is happening? Is there something we could help? Or if they don't have any things yet, maybe you could suggest, would you like to use the church space for a potluck or something? And you could also ask them, would it be all right if we invite the wider community to join in? Because one interesting about Hong Kong is that sometimes we may feel a little bit insular. It looks like we are staying in a group, but it is because we are quite mindful that sometimes some of the cultural things that we are doing do not always translate very well. And we know that, this day is, very significant for us, but it probably means nothing to the rest of the world. So if you let us know that you are actually interested and you don't mind being invited and you want to find out more, you are going to be adapted into, one of these Hong Kong communities very soon. And if you are worried, especially in a Christian context about how to navigate, this intricate line between maybe something that seems a little bit superstitious or something that is just, generally this cultural, social things of emotional significance. You could always ask some of the Christians, because this is actually something that we used to have to navigate back in churches in Hong Kong, or even churches that is like, from a Chinese cultural context. What is superstitious and what is, something that could actually reflect the blessings of God as well as the diversity of God's creation is something we tend to put a lot of thoughts in. So you could just ask them, how do you do that back at home? Is there something you want to do here that we could join? And then I feel like, a lot of them will actually be able to give you very good and very applicable ideas.
Yeah. I think what I have just taken from what you said, Mina, is how, it sounds obvious, but not everybody is the same, and people will want to celebrate it differently. And, just because there might be a number of people that who celebrate Lunar New Year, they might all celebrate it differently, and some might celebrate it in a small way, just in their household, or some people might celebrate it as a big group. And there's no one way that you have to celebrate the festival. And so some people will like the big party and some people won't, and all of those things in between. But I really like what you say about asking, how can you celebrate it, or what would they like to do to celebrate it, or how can you join in with their celebrations? I think that's really good.
Yes, and just don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't worry about anything. There is nothing bad when it comes to, essence and things. And if you are feeling, a little bit wanting to get into the spirit of things, maybe you could wear something red as well. I'm quite sure that some Christians may actually point out that there is this superstitious aspect of, including the color red. But just to know that, red is also almost like the theme color of Lunar New Year. I still recall that back in 2023, the beginning of it, UKHK project had the funding to host a series of friendship festival, Lunar New Year friendship festivals across the UK. And we have some district councillors showing up with a red scarf, and the community just went wild. Because just from that small token, we know that you know something about the New Year, and that you're doing a gesture of demonstrating that you know how we celebrate or how we like to celebrate, and you are joining in the fun. So if you want to, this is also a small thing that you could do. Probably maybe not on the 29th, because you're unlikely to see anyone at church on the 29th unless you have this weekday meetings. But maybe on the 2nd of February, that will definitely be a good time to do that.
Yeah, so the 2nd of February is the closest Sunday to Lunar New Year. So that would be the best time really for churches to acknowledge it, and to pray for God's blessings on the people who are there from East Asia especially, and who might be part of the church community. That's a really good date to have in our minds and to remember. But even also what you've said has just reminded me that it doesn't have to be complicated. It's a simple thing, isn't it? Just inviting people around for a meal, and it doesn't need to be a 10-course meal. It could just be sharing food with each other like we do in so many other contexts. But just acknowledging the day and acknowledging the festival can go a long way to helping people feel part of the community, to feeling at home, feeling like they belong here, and to have two-way learning and two-way conversation that's mutual and beneficial for everyone, rather than having one group of people who are the hosts and one group of people who are the receivers. Giving and receiving should always go two-way, shouldn't it? And I think this is a really good opportunity for that, to give and receive across cultural differences, which is really exciting and really positive.
Yes, and it is, I feel like there's a special significance, especially when you considered how diverse the world is getting. And there's this special blessing of learning a little bit about each other, so that this understanding will go a little bit beyond how you're seeing each other on Sundays. On Sundays, we are very different, but we are also remarkably similar because we are united by the word of God, and then we were united in worship. But this kind of small cultural tidbits could actually give people a kind of window into how we all live and how we understand the world and where we are from, on every day as well. And I think that this is a good thing to be and a good gathering to be at. And especially when you know that this is supposed to be for family and your family as well, even though you may be using a different language and we may not always have the terminologies and the vocabularies to explain to you what we are doing, but this is the thought that counts. So don't worry about what kind of meals that you have to cook up. The gesture of being invited, of, staying and eating in this time of the year is already quite significant. And it's also just like what Emily said. I do agree that this is not really a matter of I'm the host or you are the host and then we come to enjoy. In a traditional household, it's actually a little bit like Christmas meals or Thanksgiving meals in the Western cultures. You don't just sit there and let someone do everything because you're supposed to be like family, you all contribute. This could be the same as well. The only difference is probably be like you have to ask, how I may contribute because there may be different requirements, in different households. Sometimes we do have to wash the dishes. Sometimes you only need to load the dishwashers. So maybe there's, small difference of how different households are doing it. And as far as I know, sometimes family do have their slightly unique interpretation of Lunar New Year cultures as well. So see there. Yeah.
Yeah. Learn as you go. Learn from your friends as well. That's great. I have an invite for Lunar New Year, which I'm very excited about. The family that we're going to, they're amazing chefs. And so my husband is counting down the days until Lunar New Year because we're going to have a real feast. We're very excited about that. So from my perspective, it's going to be a great festival to join in with and celebrate because we're going to eat some amazing food, which is going to be fantastic. So as we finish, Mina, perhaps you could help us just think about we've talked a bit about messages and blessings that we can share at Lunar New Year, but perhaps you could share a blessing with us, a blessing for everyone who's listening to this podcast and a blessing for everybody who'll be celebrating Lunar New Year over the next few weeks.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm now going to use a phrase that is very often used in Christian circles back in Hong Kong. I will wish all of us 福杯滿溢，主恩常在, which means may your cup of blessings overflows and may the grace of God be always with you. This is like another new year. Think about it that way. You are blessed to have a Western New Year and you are now blessed to be included in a Lunar New Year. So for all those who already failed in their New Year resolutions, congratulations, you have a second chance to start again. And for those of you who do not want to extend your congratulations in such a cheeky tone, I would say, may the blessings be upon you. May you find renewal, not only in God, but in this very diverse understanding of kingdom of God. That may you find a special friendship, a deepening friendship, as well as a kind of understanding with those who are far away from home. And that may you, in the Lunar New Year celebrations, not only be able to come to a greater understanding of what home and family means to people from Hong Kong or China and East Asia, but also have a different insight as to what kind of blessings you could bring to people, that you could bring them into your home and that they could bring you into their homes. How to have a home and how to have a family in the kingdom of God, no matter where you are. May this blessing be upon us in this special Lunar New Year this year.
Amen. Thank you, Mina.
Thank you. And yes, Happy Lunar New Year, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Love the Stranger podcast, a podcast brought to you by Welcome Churches. You can find out more about Welcome Churches' work, including how to donate, at welcomechurches.org. Please like and review, share and subscribe to our podcast to help us spread the word.